just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
All right, Coach. How you doing? Today, let's get straight into, as always, I'm not even going to let you answer how you doing. How you doing? Awesome. What are the top 3 ways to sharpen the saw? First of all, what is sharpening the saw? We talk about the concept of sharpening the saw. And I don't know if this was originally from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, but it's definitely one of the habits. And we use it interchangeably and don't necessarily quote that. But what is it to you? What is sharpening the saw?
At its most basic level, it's practicing. And then from there, you can expound upon that definition. But for me, it's practicing what we do well in a manner that challenges what we believe to be true. And I took some notes right before we turned on the camera here and went live. But I think there's also an element of doing something we might not want to do, even though we know it's good for us. Like there's a certain element of, well, why do I have to do this? Like I'm already good at it. I already do it. I already know this. I already know the concept. And the sharpening the saw is to show up anyway and try to get a level deeper, a level sharper than when I started.
Yeah, because as you were talking about that, I went to where sharpening the saw is not creating the saw. Like the saw, the work to the big lift to create the saw, to be able to have something that you can use that is sharp, that does have already a purpose, has a job it's done very well. You can still show up and you can still use it. It's not that it doesn't exist; it already exists. Sharpening the saw is around just giving you that extra edge, that little bit you didn't have before. Because if you go and you roll up and you use the saw, then it will still work. And maybe what happens is that you show up and you cut something and it works. And then show up next day, cut something, it works. It feels just as sharp. Day after, it feels just as sharp. Week after, it feels just as sharp. After a month, 2 months, it's like, man, why is this so tough today? And now you've found that actually the reality is that you've only just noticed that it's getting really dull. The blade's really dull. But what's happened over that period of time is that it's getting progressively duller and your performance is getting progressively worse. And although each individual version compared to the last is no difference, over that course of a month, the performance is now significantly different. And you can only now, with your saw, and I'm picturing one of those big saws with 2 handles on each side, right? Because this is our saw, Coach. We're cutting those big logs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now that in the allotted time, we can only cut half as many logs as we could before. Maybe that's the importance of it. Maybe that's part of the importance of it.
Mm. I wrote down 2 words: time decay.
Oh yeah.
And if we're not practicing something, if we're not getting better at it, are we getting worse? And that's the old adage, if we're not growing, then we're dying. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. It's cliche, right? That's why we can easily breeze over that and just like not give that a second look. I think that's true in this instance. This is perhaps why we've continued and been so successful with this podcast. And it's interesting how I use that word success. It's not that we have millions and billions of viewers or have made so much money from our pod. It's the fact that we're still here sharpening each other's saw together. I value this time, and I don't. There's maybe a bit of a fear, like if we stop this, that saw is going to get dull. Like I don't want that time decay. This is a time to where, we hope it's adding value for other people, because these topics that we choose to talk about are in other people's minds as well. And a lot of times we start with the obvious. Think of how we started today. Like, what is it? What is sharpening the saw? When here we are doing it, talking about the very subject that we're talking about.
I love all the things you just said. Yeah. And we haven't recorded one of these for a couple of weeks because of something like that. We've skipped a few in a row because of our leadership retreat, some client commitments, and I feel it, or at least I feel the warning of it. I feel the warning of not coming back to sharpening the saw, because time decay is real. Cliches are real, but cliches are cliches for a reason, because they are real. And I want to go the other way with it as well, right? Because if we continually are sharpening the saw, we're going to start to notice we're going to start to notice the upswing. Whereas it might take 2 months to notice that we're not cutting those logs as quick. It might take 2 months to notice that now our saw is so sharp that we can not only cut 10 logs in the allotted time, we can actually cut them back to back, stacked on top of each other. So now we can do not just 11 or 12, we can now do 20 in the allotted time, because we can just like a knife through butter on those things. So that non-linear massive upswing in the compound interest is also available, right? It's not just, oh, it's okay, it took twice as long, I'll just sharpen it and get back to zero, but we're missing out on all the upside as well.
There's an interesting concept to ponder about the opportunity cost of not doing it, right? Unfortunately, we don't live in alternative or ulterior universes to where we can compare that or juxtapose where we might have been or where we could have descended to had we not done this. But I like to just pause and think about that with your version of cutting trees and branches, right? Well, ours is coaching and clients, and how much I've developed as a coach and concepts that we talk about from this conversation, and how much I use these conversations to implement things throughout my daily week and add value to other people. So that's the version of this. And I think of this is almost 130 episodes, right? We're like right on the brink there. Man, that's a lot of conversations and a lot of saw sharpening. It's also a mouthful.
That's right. Yeah, it's spot on. I'd say probably the scariest thing about the opportunity costs is that, like you said, we haven't got a different universe to peer into to find out what it could have been. So we don't know what it could have been. That should be the scariest part, right? You don't know what you're missing out on. It could be something that's amazing and crazy good. And so we owe it to everything to get into that place, I think it's really important. Right? Well, let's boil it down. Let's sharpen the saw into the action here. We talked about, okay, what are the top ways to do this? What might be the top 3 ways, Coach? What would be one that you would offer? What's the first way? And I wouldn't necessarily put these in terms of number 1 is the best. Take this as you're listening and watching this, and use it in the way that you see fit in the whatever works for you in your particular field, industry, what it might be. But what would you say is the first thing, Coach? Give us that if you would.
Yeah, I'm fearful that I'm going to snag all 3 answers by just giving one of them. Like the obvious answer is to grab a partner and to sharpen the saw with somebody else together. So where does my mind go? Well, then the other versions are sharpening the saw by yourself, and then sharpening the saw with a group of people, more than one person. And why that resonates with me is because there's different impacts you get with each version of that saw sharpening. I'll get it. We've modeled the middle version of one-on-one, right, with each other every time we have a podcast together. We've shared our own practices of meditation and morning workouts and exercise and writing in previous episodes with that, that self saw sharpening. There we go. Got it.
Nice.
And then the group, right? The group is a whole nother dynamic and can scare the hell out of people for that sort of saw sharpening. So that's how I'd answer that. Those are my 3 versions, at least, at the risk of stealing all the answers. But yeah, those are my 3 saw sharpening examples.
All right, awesome, man. I love this. So Coach Josh's 3 examples, or 3 ways that 3 top ways to sharpen the saw sharpening. Number 1 would be to do have a partner and kind of go back and forth, just like we're doing here. And number 2 is by yourself and just kind of go do a review, whatever you're doing. And then as a group, because you're going to get different feedback, you're going to get that group depth and that crowd sourcing type of feedback. So I love all those, Coach. Let me take a different direction on this then. Let's think about the vertical and the horizontal, if you will. Here's my top three. I would think about, well, and I want to go to whatever industry you're coming from here. So if you're a business owner or not, as the case may be, you work in you have a corporate role, you have a job somewhere else, whatever it might be, you apply this as you see fit. But I think about the first point: how might you record some of the things that you're doing? So if you're in a service role, then, and if you're working on Zoom or something, that's an easy perhaps thing to do, is record some of the stuff, like ask your client to record that. If you're in an interaction with a client, like let's say that you're out there and you've got a construction company, like how might you say to a client, hey, do you mind if I record this? Because I want to use it to see, like, this is all about getting better. And can I record that? So record something in what you're doing so you can see it again. I would say that would be the first thing, because you can go back and see it. You actually act as a third person. So you're outside of yourself. It's huge. And then maybe number two is a zoomed out view of that. And just think about the concept of feedback. Now, oftentimes we are scared of feedback. Why, Coach? Why are we scared of feedback?
Because truth will be delivered, and sometimes that hurts.
What if they tell me they didn't like it? What if I'm doing something wrong? Good. Now you have an opportunity to do something about it. Feedback is a gift, whatever way you cut it. The only thing with feedback is you've got to make sure it's useful. You did good is not good. You did good feels good, but it's not useful. You did bad feels bad, but it's not useful. Either of them, like, not useful. It needs to be something specific. So if you go out and ask for feedback for people that you trust, your clients, the people you work with, your colleagues. Hey, how did I do in that meeting? What were your thoughts? I really want and honor your feedback. I won't judge you. You tell me how I did. What were the things that popped up for you? That'd be fantastic. And then the third way I would offer this is to journal. We know how the importance of giving yourself your own space and just get some stuff written down. I personally have a lot of resistance to journaling, especially writing stuff down, because my handwriting is so awful. I type my journal in and I limit the time to only a matter of a few minutes. But if you can think about, okay, I'm going to give myself feedback here, or I'm sharpening, this is my sharpening saw, 5 minutes, then stuff will come out and you'll have stuff to work on as well. So there's your bonus top three, and a top 3, 6, take them wherever you want them. And so just a quick recap. So Coach Josh, number 1, partner with someone to reflect and sharpen the saw. Number 2, do it yourself, like actually spend the time just reflecting in your mind what that is. And 3, do it as a group and you'll get that crowdsourcing effect. And my top 3 are: record something that you can in your business, whatever that looks like, or your role. Get feedback, ask for someone. Feedback is a gift. And get it out of your head. Journal with that specific question in mind.
Love it, Coach. Very succinctly put. Diving more deeply and sharpening the saw together. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Take care. Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.